Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Do Bonsai. Today is Saturday, it'll be Saturday the 15th. It's quite windy today, it's a little bit overcast. We've had lots of rain in the last week or so, which is a good thing because all the 4 water barrels are absolutely full to overflowing. Everything's pretty good. We're looking forward to going up to just north of Newcastle tomorrow to the Akamatsu bonsai show, their club show. That's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to that. But today I think we're going to actually do the VertPlanter terracotta video to try and work out how the VertPlanter could work in planting, I suppose, first of all, and then hopefully help us in bonsai. So as we go through into the grow area here, you can see that I'm absolutely inundated still, lots of things going on. The ficus has been uncovered, the growth is extending a lot more than what it was, so all that top's going to be deadwood, and we'll see what actually comes out down there. We're kind of prepared for a succulent Saturday or Sunday. These were taken off of a planting that we had in one of the north facing windows, and I gave somebody carte blanche to cut it as low as they like, and they literally went rim of the pot just above by that much and just went cut, all 4 heavily grown bits that have just been taken off. So these they've calloused over, and we'll get into planting them on now that they've calloused over, but that's going to be for another time, maybe later today. Let's get tidied up and we'll get the VertPlanters, and I'll show you what it was all about. So these are the VertPlanters that we're going to take a look at today. This one I've never unwrapped, but I do know what it is. It's their new planter device, and this is the original VertPlanter that they kindly sent me a long time ago now, maybe even a year or so ago, asking me if I could do a review on it and you know, go from there. Now they did offer to send a link for you guys to get a discount, so I'll have to find out what that link is, and then you know, if it turns out that these are any good, you'll be able to buy them with a bit of a discount. Quick rider on this, I don't get paid out of this at all, apart from receiving these 2 pieces of kit. It's just a straight up review, and it's whatever I think. Now I have watched a video or a few videos on the original VertPlanter, and like I said in a previous video of ours, apart from wrapping moss around the outside, I wasn't 100% sure as to what we could actually use it for. So I think what we better do first is we'll get both units out of the boxes and take a good look at them. So if we get the original box, we'll quickly pull this open. It'll be nice to get rid of all the packaging. I've had it for so long laid around. That's the cardboard element gone, and you can see I opened it but never unwrapped it fully, so ridiculous, isn't it? So we'll get this out. The first thing you get is the under tray. There's a terracotta cap for the top, and then there is the actual unit itself. It comes with a user guide on how to use it, and you can see in the picture we've got some sort of fern and things like that, so maybe, you know, this is going to be, you know, mosses and ferns and things like that. So I'll read the instructions, and then I'll try to come up with an idea for what we can use or what we can do to go forward, and I'll try and give you an explanation as to what the instructions say, and even try and get it either in a PDF format or turn this into a PDF format ourselves. So that's the first bit of packaging gone. Our second unit needs to be fully unpacked. Oh, look at that, that comes in a nice, pretty coloured box. So they're obviously going that bit further with their marketing. And this planter comes in a nice coloured box. It's a bit smaller than the original box, but on the sides it gives some ideas of what you can use it for. So there's the ferns that we talked about. You can do a triangular fig, rabbit's foot fern. I'm not even going to try, sorry, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, am I? Muehlerbeckia. Well, I kind of probably know that, don't I? Muehlerbeckia. Phalaenopsis orchid, the terrace fern, and the Psychotoria serpens lin. And is there some more on the other side? No, but you got a grand picture of some strapped on fern and moss on the outside of that. Let's have a look what comes inside the packaging. It's not really intended to be an unboxing video, but I've just obviously never unboxed this previously. So we've got a very similar terracotta unit, but the indentations around the outside are a lot deeper and a slightly different shape. So the videos I watched, they struggled to get anything to grow in these indentations. We've got a guide that's probably the same guide, and then we have a tray. So in this instance it's a plastic tray, which I think is good because the terracotta wicks water out. So the original with a terracotta tray, the water would wick out and into the tray, and slowly the tray would wick out the water also. Whereas plastic, they've been quite clever with that. That will retain the water inside, and the humidity and water will, you know, evaporate back up and into the foliage. So that's quite a clever idea, I think. So I'm just looking to see if I can find a lid for this. I don't see a lid like we have on the old one. It is transposable. There's nothing on the inside and nothing to attach. It does show the lid on the instructions, and it does show it in the original diagram paperwork. It's all pretty much exactly the same. Right, let's carry on. So in the packaging for the new one, there's no lid. Now, it shows it's still in the guide, so I'm assuming that if you was to get one of these, it would come with a lid, and it would probably be very similar to the existing lid. I can't see a reason for them to make that in plastic unless it was some sort of money saving, you know, that it's cheaper to do it in plastic than it is terracotta, but maybe not. So let's have a revision of the instructions and then we can have a think and a see about what we might be able to do with the VertPlanter. Looking through the instruction guide, it doesn't actually call itself terracotta, it calls itself a ceramic with just the right amount of porosity for the moisture absorption. So it will do exactly the same as terracotta and wick the water away to the outside to feed and water whatever you've got on the outside. So the idea is the first thing is to set your VertPlanters up, and then you need to rub spores of what you want to grow onto the plant itself. So you would take the leaves, or if you happen to have, like I happen to have some Kyoto moss spores. So I've already got spores in here. So for me, I think it'll be a case of rubbing some moss spores into these indentations and trying to see if they'll grow using the moisture from inside the VertPlanter unit. Now, I will put some links down to where other people have used fishing wire and things like that to strap ferns and other mosses onto the outside, and it does say to do that in the instruction booklet. It says obviously to rub the spores on, which will allow things to grow through, and then it says to strap the plant that you're intending to grow to the outside. Now, I do have some fishing wire and things like that somewhere, but rather than going and looking for that, I'm going to literally use it as a starter and try to start the Kyoto moss spores directly on the VertPlanter itself. So in order to do that, we need to open up the packaging for the moss spores, take a look at what we've got and rub them into the surface. After doing that, we can get some other spores in amongst some, maybe some rough soil or anything like that, and just sort of cram them in, and hopefully they stay into the unit itself. Now, on some videos I've watched, they've watered the planter first, they filled it full of water so it wicks, which then the wetness on the outside helps the seeds stick to the VertPlanter. But if you follow the instructions, the step-by-step instructions are obviously rubbing the spores onto the surface, use some rubber bands, rope or other types of securing equipment to strap the plants on, wrap any climbing plants around the planter, and again you can use rubber bands or any other type of method to secure it. And then you can cover it with seeds of your choice, and they basically show fill in all these indentations with seeds of your choice, but it does say that you need to spray some water onto the body of the seeds so that the seeds can stick to it. So obviously if this dries out, the seeds will dry out and they'll just fall straight off and hopefully just land into the tray there. After we've done that, we can fill the cylinder with water, and then we can just try and keep that full and allow that to water and feed our spores. So I'm going to have a quick setup to see how we can set these spores up to go into these indentations, and then we'll fill the cylinders up. But let me just quickly look at how we're going to start doing that by opening up the moss spores, and on the sticker here it says bonsai tree moss spores to Japan from Bonsai Outlet. These were sent to me by our good friend Tom from Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors. Tom's getting good and in a good place and doing well, so it was good to hear from you the other day, Tom. I'm glad to hear you're doing well and improving every day, and I'm sure everybody would agree with me that we look forward to you getting better and in front of the camera. So here we have a little baggie of soily spores, and I think the solution to getting that to stick to that is obviously wetting it. So if we make a paste we can make that into a paste and get it into our planter. The next question is obviously that's not going to fill every indentation of the planter. So do we mix up some soil, some dirt, not bonsai soil, but some potting soil, and fill in the rest of the indentations and give the spores somewhere to spread to as the moss grows and grow around the planter? The trick with all of this is going to be coming in here and making sure this doesn't empty. I almost need to get a level alarm so that when it goes down so far, it buzzes me to say it needs filling up. Now we are going to improve the technology in here at Let's Do Bonsai with some sprinklery type systems and things like that. So we'll probably have some sort of float mechanism that as it goes down so far, I'll get a message, an alert on my smartphone, and we'll know to come and top the water up. So our level of seeding will be maybe 2/3 up. So that'll allow loss of water down to about 2/3, and then it will continue to wick through at that level. And then whatever we get to give the alarm, we'll get a little alert to say you need to go and top it up. So let's get some pots to do this in. So I happen to have some, these were pudding pots. They had like Millionaire's cheesecake and things like that in them, and to get something like that and throw it away, I think is, you know, such a waste. And I've done seeds and soaked seeds and all sorts in these, and they've been absolutely brilliant. So if I can get these spores open, we will pour them into the pots. And this is interesting because one is obviously older than the other. It looked like that one even grew inside the soil, and this one is a lot finer, a lot smaller, but you know, both in the same packaging. So I'm going to just put some water into each and let that soak. So in Sheffield in the UK, we would call this something like making slop dosh, you know, mud parties and things like that. This is slop dosh, where people would make and create pretend kitchens and pretend to feed you with this type of stuff when we were kids. Quite scary, but there you go, that's the sort of thing we did. So I'll just give it a little stir up. I might have put just a little bit too much water in there, but we can thicken this up with some dry soils and then spread the spores around the edge and just flatten them into those indentations. So we'll just pause for a moment while that soaks into the soil that's there, and I will just get a bit of organic matter just to sprinkle in to help soak that up. Right, so it's been soaking for a while now in there, and it's still quite runny, so I obviously put quite a bit of water in there, too much. But I do have this sieve. I bought a set of 3 sieves, and this one's never been used, so hopefully I'm not going to get into trouble for this. But I've got a bit of the mix from Greenwood Bonsai, the compost mix, and I'm going to just sieve some extra soil into the water pots. That way we're not going to get great big bits that can't go into the indentation. It's a shame I couldn't nick one of the bigger ones, but this smaller one might just do the job for me out here and not get me into trouble with first in command. First in command's liable to have my guts for garters should I get caught, but like I say, I bought these, and I think that gives me the right to have the one that's not getting used. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. I'll chuck the excess larger bits into our bonsai soil. That gives us a bit of organic matter into there, and we'll just continue to separate the finest parts into our moss spores, and at least this will give something for the spores to grow in, as well as the medium that was already there. We don't have to get it thick and gloopy, just manageable, so that as we're putting it on the planter, it will just run itself around. So we'll allow that to soak up again. Looks like it's still quite a bit to add. I'll get this in a nice consistency and we'll come back. Okay, so after a good while, we've got a good amount of soil to add into our pots rather than keeping messing around. So we'll just keep mixing that in, and that will create a nice consistency to be able to rub over our planters. So just keep mixing it in, and then if we go a little bit too much, we'll be able to just spray it rather than pour water in and make a complete mess. But I think that one's just about at the right consistency, and this one's just about getting there as well. So hopefully this is a good idea what I'm doing. This is a total experiment, but all the spores are in there within the soil. It's just whether or not they'll be able to come up and out as they try to grow. Moss grows all year round, so it should, in the right circumstances and the right environment, grow. So it's not like pretty much it's the wrong time of year for anything or something like that, unless somebody wants to correct me in the comments down below. I'm not aware of special times of year. Obviously they don't like frost and stuff like that, which is why I mentioned the environment. If you have a heated environment to grow the spores in, and you can keep them under controlled conditions, the moss will grow. It will grow all year round with the right lighting, right heat. Okay, so we're going to put that one on that VertPlanter and that one on that VertPlanter. We're not going to strap at the moment any additional moss around the edge because I don't have any, but if it does look a bit sparse, we will be able to, in a future update, find some moss and get it strapped around the outside for one of the ideas in the book. So I'll lay the planter down. I've got a lollipop stick, and we'll try and scoop scoop and press in to the recesses. It is drying out very quickly, but hopefully that won't be an issue. We're losing quite a bit, but it's only an experiment, so we're not going to worry too much. Just try and speed this up a little bit. Maybe even just concentrate on this top side and not worry too much about other sides of the planter. This is kind of how it looks when it says to put the seeds in, and I think, seeing as it's drying out so quickly, I think we will quickly fill the planter up so that can start wicking through, because basically what's happening there, as you can see, is the planter is wicking away from the soil that we're putting in. So we will have to top this water up pretty much straight away as soon as the planter has wicked away the soil. But the leftover soil that we've got, I will just continue to spread into the recesses of the planter. And I suppose if we wanted to, we could soak some seeds and poke them into the planter also, into the soil that's in there. We could roll this into some damp soil and then put the seeds in. As long as the soil stays in these indentations and doesn't just fall off, you know, you're pretty much onto a winner. I am losing quite a bit of this, but it is catching it in the tray, so that's good. So it's inside, it's lacquered a little bit, I did notice, and you can see it's wicked out at the top and it's wicked out down the bottom. There's a degree of lacquering on the inside to probably stop too much wicking of the water in the whole thing. But obviously wicked water up the top should, I imagine, seep down into the rest of the pot, so that could be another very clever design element. And it's lacquered on the inside of the old one as well, so it won't just wick the whole thing out and it will stop when you get down to a level. It would stop the whole thing fully wicking it all out altogether. So I think it's a good job we got the water in now, because it's starting to wick through and it needs to moisten up this edge for us. So I'll continue to put the soil in. We are losing bits, but it's into the underside, so that's not too concerning. It's not brilliant, but it's not too concerning, because we can get it back out again. And damp, it does seem to be retaining in the planter. Going forward, we might try, like I was just saying, rolling it into some soil, filling up all these indentations, and the smaller seeds that we get, especially in some of the kits. Some seeds are far too big for this, and we might, you know, look to think about having, if this works, we might look to think, oh, we'll have something larger made with larger indentations to hold soil and seeds in. It'll be very, very interesting over the period of time how this works. Unfortunately, this isn't a magic video where you're going to get instant gratification of what it looks like, because this is the initial video of setting the whole thing up. But if you bear with me, and as soon as anything happens, I will obviously give you updates over time. So I didn't think this was going to cover as much as it has done. I'm quite surprised how much we've managed to cover. So, you know, these things don't take massive amounts of our seeds. Well, they'll take lots of seeds because there's lots of indentations, but the soil and organic matter used is very minimal if we look at it. You know, it's a small bit of indentation taking a small bit of soil, whereas normally we'd have quite heavy pots. I will store this out of any wind. I would imagine that if we had this in the wind would dry out the terracotta, the ceramic, and we would lose all the moisture extremely quickly, and that would not benefit us at all. So that's the new pot. I wonder how the old pot will manage. What I am going to do is I'm going to fill this one up now. And I'm going to give that 5 or 10 minutes while I go and top my teacup up, just to wick through, so that we don't have the drying out element that we had on the other one. I don't know if you can see on the other one, the water's already down to here where it's wicked through. So we will just top that up. Now obviously we need to be very careful to only go into the pot and don't let it overflow, and don't spill around the edges, because that water will just cascade down and pull all our seeds and soil out off of the outside of the pot. It'd be like putting it under a tap, it'll just wash it away. So whilst that's wicking, I'm going to go make a cup of tea. Okay, so it's been a little bit longer than the 5 minutes that I planned. This is nicely wet on the outside, so that's absolutely great. The other one has wicked through, and that's nice and wet as well. So we'll have to put them somewhere towards the back where there's no wind and things like that, and we'll give them space to be able to breathe, and hopefully they're going to continue to do really well. But we'll just slide the one out of the way. Sorry about the noise. Bring in the new style, and as you can see, apart from the soil on the edges, it's retaining its moisture. So the wicking process is retaining the moisture on the soil, holding its integrity and keeping it in those points. So it does work. So the question is on the shallower recesses, will it do the same job? Having allowed it to wick through will have helped, but if we just, oh look at that, I think allowing it to wick through first is a good idea, because we can literally smooth our seeds and soil and organic matter around the edges. It's not disappearing into the indentations as much, so I appreciate why they've made the change in the design, but now it's wetter, it's going on a lot better. So I think if this is what you're doing, putting the seeds in, the water step should go before putting stuff on the outside. But if you're strapping plants and vegetation to the outside, I think maybe filling it up with water first whilst you're chucking the planter around, because obviously you're going to agitate and throw the water left, right, centre and all over the place. So we'll continue to go round planter, and this is proving a lot simpler, a lot easier when it's been allowed to wick through. And we'll be able to go maybe a little bit higher on this one because we seem to have so much more. The flatter surfaces will be wet also, so you know they're going to hold a lot of moisture, so soil that doesn't go into the indentations looks like it will retain its moisture levels, which is also hopefully very good. So there's still a lot to go at, so we'll continue going around and going all over the planter. And hopefully we've got all the spores in all of this going onto the planter, and I've not, you know, lost it in the mix in the pot, in what's going to be left in the pot. But we'll try and get as much of this on the VertPlanter as possible. I do like the videos that I watched where it's already green and then you see it a bit later on the Magic Cam where they took time to do the video. But I'm going to be very interested to see how this turns out from seeds and spores. It's going to be very, very interesting for me to see how things germinate and progress. It'll also be interesting to see how much the topsoil retains the moisture. As we saw with the newer style, the outer edge you can see is just going a light brown where it's drying and drying through. But yeah, wetting it first was definitely a good idea. So hopefully we've picked up enough of the spores in this, because obviously we mixed in our additional soils, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. You can hear the rain coming down. So there's our lid on our pot. So we will put them further out of the way. There's not a lot left in the bottom of there, so we'll just leave that growing as is. And it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see whether this actually does anything. The principle's correct, everything's right, and it does work from other videos. So it's just going to be very, very interesting to see how it performs. Now, when I talked about doing this video, I actually watched straight after another video by a guy called Richard. I think the channel's called Sheffield Made Plants. We'll have a link in down below. And he was talking about watering your plants and things like that when you're away. Now, he's not a bonsai person, but he's a very keen planter person. And he was showing these terracotta spikes. Now, what you do is you fill these with water, and the spike wicks the water away and feeds your plants and trees very well. Now, we already use this type of system in our garden. I say we, Kay, she's a very clever lady, she's already using this type of system. So I got hold of some of these and asked Richard if he'd be okay with me just showing you guys this idea, and it's a really good idea. And then what you can also do, if you're going away for any length of time, you can get a wine bottle. This isn't a wine bottle, but it gives you the idea, the premise, or a slim necked bottle that goes down and in and wedges itself. So it's just, the heavens have absolutely opened there. But luckily enough, we were pretty much at the end of the video. But Richard's video I'll put a link into for the watering your trees while you're away. Sheffield Made Plants, I believe, is the channel, and he's a really great guy. I'd love to maybe meet him and collab with him one day. I'll tag him into this video, and Richard, if ever you're up for it, we could always do something together. But actually above that, come to the South Yorkshire Bonsai Society's meeting on the fourth Thursday, oh Christ, don't even know, of every month, and come and give people some experience, you know, your knowledge, and some of the things you have on the channel are absolutely fantastic. I'm sharing things just recently from your channel so that people are aware of these tips, trips, hacks, and the ones that you call out as well, the silly hacks and whatnot. But no, it'd be good to, you know, meet up and do a bit of something together maybe. But yeah, that was Richard from Sheffield Made Plants. But like I say, Kay was already doing this idea, and I'll just show you out in the garden what she was doing. So it's calmed down a little bit out here. The trees have enjoyed that little bit of rain. But out here in the beds, Kay's already put terracotta pots. The bottoms are pretty sealed up. They get filled up with water, especially when it rains, and that feeds and waters the whole beds. And she's got one or two in each of the beds. You can see in there, let's get you in. There's a terracotta pot there, and they do a really good job. And we've got a couple in these ones as well. So the vegetation is always looked after. Doesn't look like we have any down here with the other things that are growing. But yeah, she was already doing it. So when I came with the idea of that, she was like, well, you know, I already do that with the terracotta pots that are inside the plant beds. And I was like, of course you do. You know, obviously hers is on a larger scale, and you can also buy those tiny mini terracotta pots as well, so you can get them in varying different sizes. So you would be able to source however many you need. They come in packs of 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and you could just put a little recess in your house plants, or if they're big enough house plants, you could put one of them spikes in and go away on your holiday and not worry too much about people coming in to water your plants that might not be as good as you are at watering them. And if you do have somebody in, at least in our situation with the well draining soil, they won't be overwatered anyway. They'll continue to do well. So that's going to be it for today. Get out there and make the best of the rest of the day. Be kind to each other, animals and the planet. And as always, see you again in the next one.